Thank you, Kim. I have to appreciate the fact that she's feet on the ground in this battle for 2 years. So I have to acknowledge that and say thank you very much, Kim. She's the tip of the spear. Running around campaigning, I was in Hanlantown, and residents there told me they had to dig their wells deeper because the water table had descended because of the water consumption in that area. And when you take the support of water out of the water table, things like soil lines and other things in this, they aren't supported anymore. And it puts stress on them, and they break and fracture, and then you have to replace them. You have to place wells, you have to dig the wells deeper. Just causes an awful lot of havoc. I would have never known that if I hadn't gone out and talked to the people, small town, right around Poet, Hanlantown, Iowa. Interesting stuff. One thing I want to impress upon everybody here tonight and tell your friends and neighbors, votes are more powerful than dollars. You have more power here in your vote than all the dollars they have. You have the authority, you have the vote. And I know going out that this has caused a groundswell like I've never seen before in my life. My wife and I got involved in politics in 1988 with Reagan. And never have I seen a groundswell like this, and it's just beautiful. Thank you very much. You've all donated time and energy, talent, and resources to this because we have to. We're Americans, and we're going to keep our liberties. So with that, Cerwinske is fighting the battle on the front of being a supervisor. And I've been to more supervisors meetings here in the last few weeks than I ever thought I would. And supervisors really need your support. I went into one supervisor meeting, I was the only guy that showed up, and they said, we've never had anybody show up to a supervisor meeting. And subsequent supervisor meetings after that, as this problem progressed and matured and came along and started snowballing, they're standing room only. And they even sometimes have a remote camera out so that people can see what's going on in that supervisor meeting. But they need to hear from you, and they need your support. And with that, we have Cerwinske.
Thank you, Doug. As Doug said, I'm Cerwinske. I'm Bremer County Supervisor. I'm current chair for Bremer County this year as well. This fight kind of came to me more so than me taking this fight on. This is my first term. I campaigned in 2022, and through the campaign in August, I received a letter. I'm one of the corridor landowners that was affected directly by the pipeline. If the proposed route that Summit's brought to us, that Navigator initially built, is about 400 to 600 feet out my front door. So not only just fighting this fight for the county, it's personal for me. I'm not anti-business by any means. I'm not anti-pipeline, but the safety of this literally keeps me up at night. I just don't know consciously how any company could think to do this and believe that the potential isn't there to have a rupture and cause significant damage and loss of life. Before I started as a supervisor, the supervisors that were in place in Bremer County had started the process for a zoning ordinance for setbacks for hazardous liquid pipelines. One of the first things when I came on in January 2023, we accepted the zoning ordinance from planning and zoning, and we had our hearings on it and approved it. Navigator had officials in the meeting every time shaking their head, trying to fight us, giving us pushback on multiple items on it. About 3 weeks after we passed the ordinance, they filed a lawsuit against the three of us supervisors for the items that they were in disagreement with. Our ordinance is really similar to, if you're familiar with Shelby County, they've been in a lawsuit with Summit. They have the Summit pipeline through their county, and Steve Kinkle, the good supervisor down there, is battling their way through. They lost in their first hearing on it, would have been, I believe, October, of 23, and since then they have appealed that decision. That's in the Southern District Court, Southern District of Iowa Court. Our case that Navigator had and dismissed when they backed out on the pipeline was in Northern District Court, so we hadn't had a trial date. It was scheduled for January of this year before the lawsuit was rescinded when Navigator backed down. We have Summit on the schedule, I believe April 9th, coming to talk with us supervisors and share their plans for the project. So that would be a meeting to put on your schedule, is the April 9th meeting. If you can show up, and it'd be a good opportunity to ask questions, be part of the discussion. We'll allow public comment with that meeting. We've been talking some strategy. We're in a different place than we were 2 years ago when Navigator brought the pipeline to us. We were kind of scrambling to put an ordinance together and provide setbacks and some parameters that a proposed carbon pipeline could operate in through the county. All the counties were in that way because this was something so new. I feel we're in a much better place now with the ordinance in place, with Summit bringing this back to us now. One thing that we've been discussing is whether or not we look at throwing this back to the IUB as an objection on the front end before the public meetings even get started, because what they propose to the IUB in their permit application is not compliant with our ordinance. So we feel like we have some ground to hold up initial public meetings, which will also hold up the discussions with landowners for easement negotiations. That's something we're going to dig into here in the next week and figure out the best way to approach that and work that angle as well. But part of the activism of many of the members of this group, just in the last 24 hours, there's a little known fact that came up last weekend by one of our freedom fighters, that during the decision-making process at the IUB for the permit that Summit already has had hearings for last year, there can be no contact from either affected landowners or the permit applicant to the IUB. And that was found last Sunday, and yesterday the IUB came out and suggested that Summit push back all these initial public meetings to at least late June. And it was a 2-to-1 vote. One of the members of the IUB was adamant that they could move forward. So whether or not the IUB somewhat played their hand, that their decision on the original permit should be expected, from that you would infer that it would be in June. But going forward, it showed that if they were to interact with the IUB on these new permits that they've taken out, they would be out of compliance on the permit that they already have being decided on. So that wouldn't have happened. That would have just been swept under the rug if we weren't fighting this as actively as we are. So that's one takeaway, is we've kind of been in a lull here locally, Bremer, Butler, since Navigator backed out last year. And I've seen the aggression, I guess I should say, from landowners really back down and think we had them beat. And Summit was still going along, and now Summit's back knocking on our door with these new routes. And we got to keep the energy up. We got to keep fighting. As a representative of the county, we're committed to the safety of our residents and protection of your land rights. And I know I can speak. I see Greg in the back here a little bit ago. Butler County is the same way. They're just as committed. They've passed a similar ordinance, working through all the same directions and angles that we are. So like I said, we're not anti-business, but we we're trying to protect your codified rights. We have under county home rule, we need to provide for the safety of all of our residents in our county. And that's the number one thing I take out of this is it's so new. PHMSA hasn't had the opportunity to rule on it, provide their guidelines as far as safety. Why should we be the test subjects here in flyover country, as they like to say, and where they just obviously don't seem to care about our safety or our rights. So I think by holding this back, slowing it down a little bit, we can allow PHMSA to put a good rule package and safety guidelines together where if this does come to fruition, we can feel a lot better about it. So I just want to echo, Kim has been fighting many land rights issues for many years. I've gotten to know Kim through this battle very well. And the biggest thing is just stay engaged when there's an opportunity to come up, to go to the Capitol, or to come to a supervisor's meeting and ask your questions and be heard. take advantage of it. Take the time out of your schedule. There's nights I come home from meetings and I'm just exhausted and I feel like I can't do any more. And I get on Facebook or I look at my email and I see what everybody up here has been doing. And that's what drives me to keep going too and keep putting this effort out, is because we're going to lose it. We're going to lose our land rights. And if we don't keep this battle going and work together and become a stronger, bigger team, it's gone. So that's all I really have. I'll stick around for questions when we are done, though. If there's anything county-wise related, I'd be happy to answer what I can.